Okay, I can begin.
Okay, great. Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Happy Wednesday to you. As you know, our leader is out of the country right now. I think he'll be returning tomorrow. So I welcome you and I thank you for joining us here on Stopping the Violence and Crime in America. As some of you know, and for those of you who don't know, this has been a clarion call from Holy Mother Han to stop the violence, not only in America, but worldwide. So we come together collectively to answer the call and to be in collaboration with other entities, other agencies that are working to stop the violence and working in a non-violence capacity to try to get this situation turned around. We know that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son that we may have life more abundantly. And if we can show love, which is the essence of Jesus, if we can show love, or we can show uh, kindness, if we can unite in a place of unity, then we'll have a much better world. I think it comes back to a matter of respecting each other, honoring each other, and again, just being kind. Every now and then, you might just want to say a kind word to someone because you never know what they're going through. On this program, we have had so many speakers. This is our third year. We've had law enforcement, we've had mental health workers, we have had community community agencies that are working with people that are in trouble, have been in trouble, and actually lend themselves to the a follow-up capacity that people can make some different decisions. We don't always know what leads to a person acting out or behaving in a negative way. But during this time in this program, we're speaking to so many other people just to try to find out the root causes and get down to the root causes that this program will be valuable and can offer some assistance. So today we will have today is a recording. However, afterwards, if you have any thoughts or any comments, please feel free to express, what you're thinking and how the program has enlightened you in some way, or has been thought provoking. The guy, his name is Cleophas Glory. Yes, that's it. He was on, I think June 11th was the airing, but he has such a profound dynamic in the program that he's doing. And as we continue to build, as you know, some of you might know that we are planning a Stopping the Violence conference in Washington, D.C. in October. I believe it's October the 24th through the 26th, to have all these different agencies and leaders to come together and to collaborate and be able to share information, to be able to receive information that when they leave Washington, D.C., they will have the information that's needed. If they have a family member or someone contacts them that is in another state, they'll be able to receive those resources that are in that state for them. So without further ado, we'll start the video, and Reverend Oliver will be introducing our speaker and reading his bio, and then we'll go into see what the speaker has to say himself. So buckle up, get ready to receive with your heart, open your eyes and your ears just for a different perspective, another level of understanding as to what is going on in our community and the services that are provided. I appreciate Kyra for being on today and for helping us through this journey. So let's go.
To this week's uh, Stopping the Violence webinar that we are pleased to share with you some of the extraordinary speakers that we've had on over the last 3 years. And is you who are new to us and those who already know us, the whole premise of this webinar is to really look deeper into what are some of the root causes of violence. Originally started from the founder, we affectionately call Mother Moon, or Dr. Haksham Moon, says we need to deal with gun violence in America. But we realize that gun violence and a gun is an inanimate object that stems into gun violence. But what are the root causes that causes people to pick up these inanimate objects and hurt, harm, kill one of their fellow human beings? What are the root causes of behaviors that are out there that leads persons into incarcerations? What are the root causes? So we have had several speakers that have come on and share with us, many of them from the community activists, from the court system, mayors, religious leaders. We have a diversity of types of individuals and organizations that have come on and just moved our hearts, and because they have shared with us the awesome tools that they have used that have worked, that has sustainable and measurable results. But today we have another guest, and I think this is the first one that we really had, really dealing with the arts, if you will. And it's our dear brother, Cleus, like Nucleus Cleus, Glory Young. But it's interesting because he spells Glory G-O-L capital W-R-Y. I like that. Quite young, quite unique. He's the founder of TEB-IT Foundation, Foundation, critically acclaimed, and you'll correct me, acclaimed author of the Airport Venture. We're looking forward to hearing from you, Brother Young, and how you have played a critical role in the healing of humanity, which plays a critical role in curbing violence in our country and in the world. So without any further ado, welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we'd like to hear from you. If you could share who you are, your little bio, which is what brought you to this, and what are the things that you are doing in your life and in your career that is related to,
and the
violence and those type of things. But we're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So starting off, I know what you just mentioned was the act of understanding my name. So it's Cleus Glory Young. The reason why I spell glory with a W is actually looking at the context of it, that Cleus actually means glory. The context of that, though, is everyone that names Cleus is going to get that same definition of glory. So I found a distinct way of identifying myself totally different from the other Cleus, and it was like, hey, spell it with a W. The capitalized W is actually in the context of asking God for wisdom. So when I started to understand that dynamic around your name and how your name can start to develop your character, so what I did actually now looked at my first name and I was like, okay, it means glory, to God be the glory. So it's like, hey, how do you now multiply this on the next level? And what I did now, I looked at it, glory, and then I identified now to put it in the middle of my name. And the context of that now, again, going back to the W, is asking God to give me the wisdom to now do the things that I need to do. And that is actually in the middle of my name, which is now me centering around God giving me things from a wisdomatic standpoint to now address different things. So that's how that actually comes into play. Myself, growing up, I grew up in Jamaica. As a child, that's where I started life. Had a wonderful childhood. And it's ironic because now that I'm older, I started to see certain things that I was able to piece together. So growing up in Jamaica, as you talk about how do we help with humanity right now? So as a child, we used to have this, what you call pledge, which is actually a part of my presentation right now, where I showed the audience that, hey, when we were growing up, we were making this pledge when we went to school in the context of saying that, hey, we're pledging to make the world a better place. So day by day, as we went to school, this is what we had to pledge to. And in that context now, it was like when I started to understand as a adult now, I was able to go back to my childhood and realize that, hey, these were the things that you were pledging to make the world a better place. So it actually started from my childhood days. However, growing up in Jamaica now, our what is called athletic abilities mostly are expressed in football, which is the main sport. And as you know, track and field, we produce some of the highest and best track and field athletes around the world. So when you look at that now from a standpoint, I grew up playing football. Football for me was the outlet that allowed me to be creative in different areas, right? Ironically, I was able to now match it with my name. That's why I actually gave people the pronunciation of my name, Cleus, and I used the word nucleus. It's actually coming back from my childhood days of understanding playing football. I used to play in the middle of the field. The middle of the field is called the midfielder, and the middle now is associated with the context of nucleus. So when I give someone my name today and say, hey, my name is pronounced nucleus, nucleus is like the center, but that's actually coming from me understanding playing football and trying to see how I made the transition from football all the way to where I'm at now, which started out where playing football, it was like, hey, this is the ticket to get you out of whatever life you want, what you would say consider childhood adversity, or typically what they say, hey, you're from a third world country, so things aren't better for you than in the first world. So for me, football was that thing that I invested in saying that, hey, I want this to be the ticket that allows me to come out of this third world concept. So at a young age, what Caribbean parents typically do, they normally come abroad, work, and then establish themselves and then send for their children. So this is how I actually moved to America now. My mom came here and established herself here first and then send for us the children, which was me, myself, my other older sister, and my younger brother. She sent for us to come and live with her here. The irony about that, she used to actually live in New York when actually she looked at the crime and violence that was going on in New York and saying that she didn't want her children to be exposed to these type of crime and violence. So what she actually did, she established herself in the Poconos. So that's where the platform started. Once I moved from Jamaica, I arrived here in the Poconos, and it was a decision that my mom made of not wanting us to actually be in a crime-filled area, which is like what she would say in New York. So I don't know if anyone have ever been to the Poconos. It's like this other place that people actually go and consider it like a vacation spot. So this is where we were able to leave Jamaica and come here. And that's where my journey here started. Come here, I was like, hey, I wanted to be the next Pele. And if I came here and got the right training, exposed to the right people, the right opportunities, then that would allow me to become the next Pele. And growing up in Jamaica, this was like the childhood thing that many of us who played football actually gravitated towards. Just like here, someone playing basketball, they're like, hey, we want to be Michael Jordan. That's how we were growing up in Jamaica. We want to be the next Pele. So coming here and being in the Poconos, I started playing soccer, which it transitioned from football to now soccer. So in high school now, I was playing on the varsity team. We did very well, won the championship. For me, it was like, wow, this is my dream coming through as far as being the next Pele. And what I looked at after high school, I started to look at, I guess, what you would call an envision of your future of what you would be like if you became the next Pele. And to me, what I saw at that particular moment, I saw myself being celebrated as a celebrity that only has the ability to kick a ball into a goal. And this was the time where, I don't know if you guys remember when there was this blonde stereotype that if you were blonde and you were a model, then what would happen is like, that's all you can do in life. You don't have any sense. You're not good at anything else. You can just model and that's it. So when I actually look at it and I envision like, hey, you're going to be this celebrity and the only thing that people are going to think about you is that, hey, your life could be like someone who's just kicking a ball in a goal and that's it. And to me, that didn't resonate with me. So from that day, I gave up my boyhood dream of saying I didn't want to be Pele anymore. And from there, it has been 25 years since I've been on a journey of looking for something more significant out of life. So walking away from playing soccer, I started to actually getting into writing. And I published my first piece of work in an anthology back in, I think this was like 2002, where I published my first anthology, poetry in an anthology book. And that's what got me to start gravitating towards now moving away from the athletic ability to now get into the creative arts with my own concept. So I started to express myself from a poetry standpoint. And from a poetry standpoint, I started to push myself to new possibility. And then what happened now, I started to craft into now, hey, it's a poetry. Now I'm writing short story. And from the short story, it was like, hey, what else can you do? And I started to push myself again. And then before you know it, I wrote my first book. And the way I wrote my first book, it was just looking at the poetry that I actually wrote, and that from that poetry, it transitioned into a short story. And then at that point, I was like, hey, this could be turned into what is called a chapter book. At that point, I didn't have no experience to actually write a book. And I kid you not, I started praying and asking God to give me the wisdom and knowledge to do it. And within a week, I wrote my first book. And that's how my journey now moved from just writing poetry to now writing short story to now writing books. And that's how it transitioned from me now saying, oh, I don't have to play football to get myself into this concept of saying that, hey, I could be something substantial in life. And that's where I started to now work on my creativity around this concept of writing. So writing books now, it allowed me to start getting into the community where it's like, hey, you're participating as an author, someone is asking you to come out here and speak. And when I started to go into the community now, that's actually how I started to see the social issues that were going on in the community. So it's like, hey, you're invited to come out and speak at this school or at this church or at this community event. While you're going out there as being an author, what it allows you to see is to see the different things that are going on now and what people are having challenges with. So from there now, I started to look at it not just to write, but to craft certain things in addressing social issues. So I started to get into now writing plays. So I started to write plays now, and the plays now I started as a social issue. The biggest social issue I took on at that particular time was bullying. So I would write a series of bullying plays, and the more I did them, is the more I realized, like, wow, these are things that I wasn't aware of that was actually impacting people. And I started to look at it now. It's like, hey, you're writing plays about bullying and stuff like that, but what else can you do? And what I started to do now, I started to transition into different things like, hey, people can actually learn not just from a theatrical standpoint, they can learn from a workshop as well. So I actually developed a workshop around bullying. And when I started to go out and teach that now, what happened, it started to become an eye opener. And from there, it was like transitioning now from just writing the plays to now doing the workshops. And then what I started to look at it was like, hey, people can learn in different aspects. They can learn from a play, they can learn from the workshop. And then what I started to do now was creating activities. So now it was like I didn't have to do a hour-long workshop. I could create an activity, and we worked through the activity. One of the activities that I created was called ping pong. So I could show you how playing ping pong was the battle between the bully and the victim and the bystander. So that's how I usually develop these activities, where it's like now I'm showing people from a different angle. And from there, it just started to now come into the concept of how can you be creative in a way that you actually address social issues from a different angle. So going back to that ping pong, I remember, I think his name is Andel. It's called, I forgot the name of the song, but it has this theme around it where it's talk about peace. So what I did, I developed the ping pong for peace. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ping pong for, and that's how now I started to incorporate more than just saying, hey, we're playing a social issues. We're now looking at it from a spiritual standpoint. Again, ping pong for peace. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The hallelujah part was looking at it that you're now bringing in this spiritual context to address the social issue. And we started to play ping pong for peace. I invited families to come out, and it was like we're playing, but at the end of the day, what was being done at that particular moment was actually showing you the context of bullying from a whole different standpoint. And how did I come up with that concept? I learned it from the Karate Kid, where he was getting trained wax on, wax off, and he thought that he was just being learn how to wash a car, but eventually it was like, hey, I'm teaching you how to defend yourself. So I took that concept and I put it in for ping pong for peace. We're playing ping pong, and you think that we're just playing a game, but I'm showing you the dynamics of what actually makes up the whole context of what is called bullying. And just by me actually snatching the ball out of the activity, it actually stops the entire bullying process. So I showed it from that standpoint. So from there, it's like people wanted me to come out and show these things, either the play, the workshops, or the activities that I would develop. And from there now, I started to get a better understanding that life wasn't just about you. It's like, what is it that you can actually do to help others? And from there now, I started to look at it. You know what? I need to go back to school and learn how to do certain things when you're talking about advance in our community. So I went back to school, and from there I learned my major in human services and psychology. Human services, how do you service the human being? Psychology is how do you understand the human being? So from there now I started to understand human beings from a service standpoint and also from a developmental standpoint. And this is now how I started to now go back into the community and started to look at different things that I was able to do now from a humanistic standpoint. Hey, I know this is how you develop. Hey, I know this is the type of services that you would need. How do I put the two and two together? And that's how I started to now really look at it, not only just saying, hey, you're developing an activity out here, but you're actually understanding the root of what's going on in our community. And after school, this was a shocker because after I left school, I left on what is called a devastated standpoint. Like I went back and I was learning about the community. I was learning about the development of human beings from the cradle to the grave. But there's also this spiritual context of if you're able to put two and two together. And it was like understanding now that there was more that was going on in our community than we have been previously taught. And the context of that is like I left school very devastated, seeing that I was able to see these things from a spiritual standpoint, where it's like I remember I graduated from school May 2016. May, June, July, I called my mom and I told my mom that I never want to do nothing with the community anymore. And this was all the things that I learned in school. Like, again, if you're able to put two and two together, and I could tell you the same people that are on your team, like literally building your team to go impact the community, those are the same people who will now stab you in the back or do something to really make the mission not prosperous. So when I started to learn these things now, I started to look at it from a standpoint of now what is called the behavior context of who we are. And this was a light that really came, just as I just said, the same people that you're building with are the same people who are behind your back. Because at one point after college, I was building this concept around bullying now. Like it's a very dynamic thing that I was doing around bullying now. Had a partner at that particular time. There was a person, I live in Pennsylvania, particularly Philadelphia. There was someone who was in Jersey who heard about my work and brought me in Jersey to come and do some work for them around bullying. I made the context of where I said, hey, I'll come there and I'll train your parents and teachers on the concept of bullying. If you like what we do, what we can do, we can partner up and take this on a national level. Why? Because I know that no one else is doing things like this. I went to Jersey, I did the training. They fell in love with the training, even from the surveys that they took from the parents and teachers, like it was overwhelming the things that they said. So we decided now to say, hey, we're going to partner up. And what I found out later on was one, this partnership was not accurate. It was like, oh, I'm not partnering with Cleus. They went to the school district to get a contract from the school district and not issue it as a partnership, more as they're going to actually invite someone to come in and present. And when I found out about that, I was like, wow, I decided to take myself away, but that was something devastating. And then I had a business partner at the same time, right? That we were coming together to actually do the contract. And the business partner, I found out that was doing things behind my back. So from looking at it from a transition of the business, trying to get the business done, and these people were doing things behind my back, my business partner was doing things behind my back. It came to a point where, yeah, I learned psychology in school, but it came to a point is like my life crashed, and crash is that concept of what is called depressed. So I went through this depression because it's like I didn't know how to deal with it. It's like your best friend, your partner in crime is like they're doing things behind your back to crash the mission. And then now you're pitching an idea that you hope will help you to get out of the slum that you're in. And then here's it that the person is looking to steal your idea. So it's like these things combined together. Like really, for me, it was the first time I experienced that. So it was like I didn't know how to cope with it. And what happened, I ended up crashing. Crashing is the context of what they call depression. So I went through a mild depression. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping right. And my thinking was not that right level. But somewhere along the line, I could tell you this. Something came in my spirit and introduced me to the airport concept. And what happened, it told me specifically what to do, and I did it. I just followed it. At that point, I was like at the lowest point of my life, didn't know what to do. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna follow the spirit. And I followed the spirit, and it showed me something in the aviation industry and told me what to do. I followed it, and I kid you not, within 2 weeks, I went from mental depression to what I would say mental aviation. It's like my mind went on a whole nother level, and I started to see life from a whole different level. Now I'm looking at it, oh, they didn't do these things behind my back. It was like, oh, I'm glad they did it, because now it walked me into an experience now where I saw the aviation industry as a totally different concept. And the first thing that led me to that was that spirit. And from there, of seeing how my mind transitioned from being low to high, I started to look into the aviation industry now, like, hey, what else is in there that could actually help me? And within the last 7 to 8 years, I've been studying the aviation industry, doing experiment, researching all these different things of understanding the aviation industry from a totally different angle. And what I was able to do now, I looked at the aviation concept, and then I started to apply it to social issues. And within the last 6 years, I've done conferences, workshops, plays, written the books, in the context of understanding the aviation industry and then applying it to social issues. And within the last 6 years, I've never had someone who came to the event and said, hey, I was aware of that, or hey, that is boring. It's always insightful in a way that they have never looked at the aviation industry to address their social issues. So that's what I've been blessed with. And I've been taking the privilege to now look at the social issues that are going on and correlate it through the aviation industries, and then find solutions now to help people to get to what is called a better destination. And there's nothing on the planet that actually helps people to get to a new destination than the aviation industry. 4.3 billion people annually travel to their destination safely because of the aviation industry. So understanding that now, I was able to understand, hey, these things that are successful over here, if you apply them from what is called the aviation concept to the social issue, it's the same thing it will do, as in how the plane takes off and actually go to a new destination. And this was a phenomenal thing that I found and discovered. So it was like looking at it now, I developed what is called the Tebbit Foundation. Tebbit Foundation specializes in the concept of universal safety. Where did I get that concept? If you ever go to the airport, the priority of the airport is safety. Once people are safe, they're able to now, not only just from a development standpoint to get to a new destination, that's the same thing for the plane as well. So the airport prioritizes safety as their priority so they can get the passengers to their destination. So when I set up the foundation, the Tebbit Foundation, the concept was, how do you teach people how to get to a new destination? So Tebbit actually stands for TEB-IT, the Educo blend in teaching. Educo, I didn't use the word education. Educo means to edu someone, meaning that you're going to bring the thing out of the person. So understanding that, it was like, hey, let's now bring things out of people. And then what's going to happen now? You're going to allow them to get to a whole new destination with their life. So this is what I've set up within the last 6 to 7 years. And to me, it has, when I tell you, it has significantly changed my life in how I actually view society. And because I have that change perspective in mind, when I sit down to create either a program, a play, or activities, that's the change mindset that I'm actually coming with. And over the years now, it has allowed me to not only do work here in Philadelphia, I've traveled to New York, Delaware, Florida, Jamaica, different places where people invited me to come out and address different social issues. And to me, the point of where I'm at now, I transitioned from bullying to now where I started to deal with trauma and mental health issue, which is coming from the background of where I came from. It's like, hey, I was depressed. And that moment of what got me out of it was the aviation concept that came as an insight for me. And for me, I was never looking at the aviation concept that it could be something that's practical to help people with their social issues, where literally you can get to a whole new destination with your life where you're not plagued by these crime and violent things that have been intentionally placed in our life. So this is my story, and what I'm developing now, I'm developing what is called a platform. It's called Hash Wednesday Forum. We're getting ready to debut it next week. And the concept is coming from like Ash Wednesday. You know, Ash Wednesday as a regular religious holiday that has to do with the communion of God, where you commune with God. So we have developed what is now called Hash Wednesday. Hash means how do you hash things out in your life so you could actually now start getting to the destination that you need to get to. And going back to the aviation industry, I learned this from the concept of what is called baggage. When your baggage is overweight, then they charge you more, and it puts the airline into a critical point where it could cause damage not only for yourself, but for others. And the correlation was, oh, so if you have a life and you're filled with baggage, it's the same thing that's going to happen to your life. You're going to crash, you're going to cause a devastation for your life and a devastation to others. So now we use the concept of showing people how if you don't pack lightly, then you're going to be a catastrophe, not only for yourself, but for others. So these are things that I've been able to do over the last 6 and 7 years that have made a tremendous difference in my life. And because I've made a difference in my life, now I'm just relevant in sharing these things with other people. So that is the context of what I've done. That's how I contributed towards crime and violence, where it's a different perspective, but I'm telling you, it gives me joy, it gives me happiness, it gives me fulfillment on a day-to-day basis just to have a different perspective. Coming back again, coming from college, graduated, very devastated because I've seen that everything that we've been doing, it's almost like doing the same thing over and over again, and we're not getting to a new destination with the things that we've been plagued with. Crime and violence, this has been going on for centuries. So it's like, hey, what can we do that's a little bit different that now allows us to now go to a whole new destination? And I'm telling you, I've never seen nothing on this planet that have been able to take people to a new destination than the aviation industry. And that's why I've fully studied it, understood it, and then now started to make a life out of it where I'm now helping others to get to a whole new destination with their life. So that's the context of my overall gist of who I am.
Oh, thank you so much, Cleus. I just want to confirm, everyone, another brilliant presentation.
Wow. I was present when the presentation was presented, but to hear it again, it just sparked some new awareness in me. When he mentioned aviation and his depression, he said that he was mentally depressed, he was down. But once he took on this project of aviation, and in my mind, it translated into aviation taking him to a place of elevation. So, what he went through, he did not allow that to paralyze him. where he just stopped right there. He continued. Another main point for me was the fact that he brought spirituality into it. He began to pray and ask God to lead him and ask God to guide him. When we talk about being at the airport, you know, you're at the airport and you have your luggage, and they tell you when you get your ticket how much your luggage can weigh. And if it's over, you're going to have to break that bag down, move some stuff around, take some things out. And that's how it is with life. With life, you can get bogged down with baggage, and you can continue to carry those old experiences, those old pains, that old baggage. You can continue to carry it into your future, or you can unpack and alleviate a lot of the pressures that I always say, I let go of the things that no longer serve me. So I'm very good at unpacking and leaving things where they lay, and as it no longer serves me, to continue to have the strength, to have the tenacity, and to have the mindset and spirit to continue to move forward in the things of God and what he has for us. So his presentation was very informative. It's very thought-provoking. And it's one of those things that, like he said, he hadn't looked at it before. But once he got a glimpse of it and God put it up on his mind and laid it within his spirit, he has moved forward and never looked back. So we have Arcado. Arcado, did you have something that you wanted to share? You can unmute yourself.
Okay. Me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay. So there was, it was very interesting, as you said, the concept of the luggage, losing the luggage and getting rid of the baggage. That was very, very interesting to me. I picked up on a couple other things that I was looking to see how can I apply them to the streets of San Bernardino where I work, where the crime and all the violence is happening. And I saw that, you know, the having a vision of the future. Uh, for me, a lot of these kids, they come in with a vision of the future that's not very hopeful. It's gang violence, all of that stuff. So what I'm looking to do is help them create that new vision of the future, like what you can do. And I think that very, very important concept there about you know. First of all, finding out what their vision of the future is, and then coaxing them into creating a new future, knowing that they can be anything they want to be. You know, all they have to do is do the right things, and stop breaking the law. All the little habits that they've picked up that have taken them to be inside these youth detention centers. Look at that and work through those. Also, when he talked about writing a book, I'm also going to write a book about life after prison. There's my stories in a book now called Man Built for Others that talks about my salvation and redemption in prison. But now I want to write one that talks about what I've done since I've been out and the second part of the story. So I was very happy to hear how effective his writing is, and I want to do the same.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for sharing.
And I say that we start one way, but it's not about how we start, it's about how we finish. Because how we start, we have experiences behind us and before us. And at that particular time, we once we've had bad experiences, we learn to make better choices, and to be able to present that to the kids, even if it's a fantasy, in their mind, allow them the opportunity to think forward, share some critical thinking skills, or a vision of what they would like for their life to look like. You know what I mean? And you're a prime example to say, this is the way it started, but this is where I am now. And this is how I plan on finishing. I wrote a book, and it's a collection of poetry. When I worked after I stop working at the prison system is called time served, because even though I was a officer, a leader, a lieutenant, a watch commander, I had to go in there anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a day, and that was taken away. So I did time as well. And I think my most valuable lessons were learned about human behavior in that environment. So I commend you, and please go forward with your work and the dreams, the thought that and the goals that God has placed upon you, because we're our testimony is what save other people. You know, other people have situations, they have no idea how they're going to go through it, but we might have had that experience and can share how we went through it, which is what he has done. You know, he came to that place of depression, but he pressed his way through that, you know, to be able to see things on the other side. He doesn't hold those people hostage for betraying him. He looked at it and saw where he could do something different. So thank you so much, Akato, for sharing with us. Barbara, I see you have your hand up. Barbara Mosley, you want to unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, I came in very late to the program, but I'd like to make 2 points. I haven't heard as much as you have heard, but what I heard, the first thing that came to me, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And from his experience and what he's done, you cannot say it can't be done, because he worked from his experience, not from someone's book, not from someone's creation. So he can attest that this really works because he began with himself. And you made a point that bears that out. You said our testimony helps other people. So true. So true. Because if it's our testimony, it's not something made up.
Mm-hmm.
And we can say, I've been there. Here I am now. Thank you. That's all I can say today, because I didn't hear the entire program. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Barbara, you can always go on UPF Stopping the Violence and look at past recordings, and that's for anyone that's on the webinar today. If you missed a week, or you heard someone and you would like to hear it again, you can always go on UPF Stopping the Violence and watch the recording.
Thanks for reminding me. I had forgotten about that, but this one I want to see, so I will.
Oh, good. Yeah. And the comparison to your life and the aviation system, you know, just on a daily basis, you wouldn't think about that,
right?
You know, but and what was another key point he made was it has to be balanced. You know, they know exactly how many people they have. They know exactly how much luggage they have. They know what it should be to offer that plane the balance that it needs to continue to move forward. So yes, that was very interesting. So does anyone else have any comments or thoughts or?
Hi, Madeline. This is Hans.
Hi. Hey, Hans, how are you?
Good. How are you today? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. I had the pleasure to converse with your beautiful daughter today.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yes. Thank you for sharing her.
She seems to be everywhere these days, but I don't get to see her as much as I would like to.
I understand.
But, Madeline, I just wanted to say, you know, this young man is really an example of where faith and, you know, perseverance can move us. And I think we all had a very similar experience in our life. If we look back and, you know, we see the hand of God guiding us in so many different ways. And actually, he is from Philadelphia. And I'm not sure if I can share my screen here, but he was in Philadelphia last, what was it, on the 19th.
Wow.
And he gave a talk. I just wanted to bring up the flyer here for you on his experience, and he's working out with Pastor Shoda in Philadelphia. They're doing a series on Peace Starts With Me. So I just wanted to demonstrate that as a way of revealing, that this pattern that he shared with us today in this program is really a way out,
Yes.
And I think ultimately it leads to creating our own identity, discovering who God created us to be. And by doing that, then I think real permanence can be experienced in pretty much anyone's lives once they understand, that they were created for a purpose, that God is always there to help us. We just have to reach out or, take that step sometimes, get into the arena, so to speak. But when we do, then good things happen. So this program, I think, is wonderful, and it promotes that approach, I believe. And wish you all the best, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was talking, and as I was talking to Kyra earlier, I said it's like we're all puzzle pieces, and God has a plan to put all of us together. So we each have an intricate shape. We each have a intricate personality to shape and form God's plan for us to come together and unite in harmony. And when we have that ability and that we've identified who we are, we'll click right into our puzzle piece where we belong, and we'll continue to help those around us. Sometimes, and like I said, sometimes it's as simple as a kind word. Sometimes it is your full testimony. Sometimes it is a resource, but we all have a responsibility in this world to make it better. As those that are out there that are troubled, the least we could do is pray for them, that they will hear and receive the book from the voice of God, and make a turn, to realize that they're doing more harm than they are helping anyone. So we all have a path, we all have a journey. Those of us that have crossed over into a realm to know who God is and have received him and have made that spiritual connection, we have responsibility not only to reach back and help someone else, but to continuously pray for the world at large, because everyone's path and journey is different. David, did you have something that you wanted to share?
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. He referenced sports as one of the things that helped him, or in his pursuit of betterment. And also, we talk about art and music also, which can be a way. And I was reminded of in the 1970s in Venezuela, there was a youth problem, gangs and all sorts of problems. And there was a Venezuelan businessman by the name of Jose Antonio Abreu, who, seeing this, he put up some money to start a small music project to get kids into some kind of more productive environment. And he hired a few music teachers and bought a few music instruments and had a building that he could use for the kids. And over time, this program really took off, where it got to the point, it was so successful that the Venezuelan government started kicking in millions of dollars to develop this youth orchestra project. And over the last 40 years, the Venezuelan Youth Orchestra Project has been the most successful project of its kind in the world. And they've educated thousands of young kids in the art of music. And some of these kids have gone on to play in professional orchestras around the world, right? And the top orchestras there in Vienna, what's called the Simon Bolivar Youth Orchestra, is a fantastic ensemble. They can play as well as the Chicago Symphony or the Philadelphia Orchestra. But this gentleman, Jose Antonio Abreu, had some idea that getting kids involved in something enjoyable, like music, was a way to give them some purpose in their life and got them off the streets and into something productive. So those kinds of examples are very important. And we can use sports, art, music, service projects also can be ways to bring people together for a higher purpose or common good. And the one other thing just to point out, we've known for decades that family breakdown is a big issue here, right? And that having good, strong families helps kids become better in school, less prone to get into gangs, or less prone to do drugs or get into sexual or immorality. So again, family issues, like we say peace starts with me, but also we could say peace starts in the family too. I think that's an important factor. So just my recollection and reflection on the meeting today.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And when we look at things as an individual, God didn't create us really to be individual. No man is an island. You know,
Right.
when he created Adam and put Adam to sleep, he said it's not good for man to be alone. So he created woman. He created that relational concept. And as we have procreated, that is the senses that, you know, everybody wants to be involved in something. Unfortunately, it is negative, but they're looking to be accepted. They're looking to be wanted. They're looking to be a part of something.
Mhm.
So, and they're looking to find their identity. You know what I mean? Whether it's a negative or a positive force, they're looking to find themselves to show up to say, I can be good at this, you know, or I can be a part of this. It's relational. We're relational beings, we're emotional beings, but to come together collectively, the things that we initially search for um in the 60s, the 70s, and early 80s, it was the foundation of the family. You know what I mean? You found those things in your family, that
Right.
those relationships, the love, the caring, the correction, the boundaries, you know, the morals, the values. You learned that in your family
That's right.
concept.
That's right.
But that quilt, the weaving of that quilt, the stitching has begun to unravel for so many different, you know, for so many different reasons. But we are in the position to be surrogates, for lack of a better word, to be surrogates to those that are hurting and those that are looking to find themselves, just by making ourselves available, inviting people to the webinar, just to get the full concept. Because a lot of times people that suffer, they think they suffer in silence because the enemy tricked them in their mind. And I think it was Barbara that had mentioned the mind being a terrible thing to waste. But the enemy has a way of isolating people and tricking them, saying that they don't belong, that they're not good enough. And, you know, all of these things play out in the mind if they don't have a place of belonging, and they begin to search for that fulfillment. And we are the beacons of light. And as we continue to grow, because we're continuously growing, we continuously learning, you know what I mean, it's up to us again to share what we have learned, to invite people to the webinar, to see where their puzzle piece will fit, either in their family, in their community, or in someone else's family or community. But there's a place in this world for everyone. There's a line in Mother's book, I believe it's on page 51 of Mother of Peace, where she says that everyone should feel gratitude for being born. You know, every person has a reason. Every person has a space in time in life. So never disregard a person, basically, and never feel as though you do not matter, because all of us matter and all of us had a role. God created us with a plan in mind. In Jeremiah 29:11, he says, I know the plan that I have for you. I know the thoughts that I have for you, a plan of good and not of evil. So collectively, if we could all come together collectively and lend whatever area of expertise that we have to support someone else. I'm a firm believer. I have faith. I've heard people say things are going to get worse before they get better. And I say, stop saying that. Stop saying that. We've had worse, but we can have better. We can have better. The world can get better. The world can evolve and back into a caring place, a place where people will put people over power. You know, we can get into a better place. And I think by this platform, I think by the platform the conference that's coming forth in October, it will allow people to lend themselves to one another. And if we could just make a difference in one person's life, then we have made a change in the world concept. So I thank you all. It's about 3 or maybe a minute after, but I thank you all for being here. Continue on your journey and your path. Continue to seek that higher ground. Go take that aviation process and elevate mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So God bless you all. Take care. And until we meet again, peace and love.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is presenter originally from Jamaica?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He was born and raised in Jamaica, and his mother initially brought him to the States. They lived in New York, but she didn't want them to be in that environment, so she moved them up to Pennsylvania to the Poconos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Madeline, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say one thing. I know you know this, but you said God said it was good when he made women. Actually, he said it good when he made man. But for us, he said it's very good.
Very good. That's right, Barbara. That's right. Very good. I like that.
Meadow, I just wanted to ask, as we have the conductor in the audience here, David, you know, we have all these associations in UPF, and my colleague Peggy Yuri and I have been discussing this issue. How can we create an orchestra of our associations to speak to the world? We have all this content. We have 3 or 4 years of videos, you know, that have incredible messages for the world, all rooted in, you know, a God-centered worldview. So how can we create that orchestra so that we can really reach out to those billions of people that we want to communicate with?
Well, I assume you're using the term orchestra in a metaphorical sense, right? You know, and all of us are.
You fill in the details.
Well, I mean, all of us are part of the orchestra, right?
Yes.
You know, in an orchestra, you have string players and brass players and percussion players and woodwind players, and each has a different role to play in the orchestra, right? And so the conductor's job is to make sure that everyone's playing well together. You know,
yes.
that's in 25 words or less. That's your job, is in rehearsal to make sure that everyone's on the same page, literally and metaphorically, right? So here, like you say, we have these different associations like IAPD and IAACP, and we have some amazing people who have shown up and given amazing content, right? And I know a lot of this is on the UPF website, right? So to your question, how to, in a sense, become more, I guess, visible, would that be the right word, or more prominent in society? Recently, I've had a couple of chats with Koichi Nakai and Damien Dunkley at headquarters about becoming or using these various platforms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, whatever, to be more proactive in getting our message out there, especially the brand Peace Starts With Me. That brand has a universal appeal, right? And I remember talking with Yolanda Adams about this a couple of times, and she sang at a number of our events. And she said, David, I love this concept of Peace Starts With Me. And I said, it's really important that we emphasize this. And she said, David, you're right. We really have to do that, And so we do have allies, people like Noel Jones, for instance, in the City of Refuge Church. He loves this concept. So we have to be more proactive. And how should I say, the word is that's being used now is marketing this, And there are a couple of people now who are taking steps, including Deborah Harris in Las Vegas. Maybe you know Deborah. She's been the gospel singer who's been leading some of the choirs. Her background is in marketing for non-for-profit organizations. She's done a number of projects for other non-for-profits, helping them to get their message out and to monetize their projects. Because being in the symphony orchestra business, it's hard to do orchestras without money. So it's hard to do anything without money. But she has a strategy now that she's sharing with Koichi and a few other people about how to get our message out there more effectively. So to your question, something is in the works, right? And she's done this for other non-for-profits, and that's her job. But she's very much on fire with the idea. And to your point, she said, David, we already have great content. We don't have to start from scratch.
Right.
We have great speakers, we have musicians, we have people who allied with us. So a lot of the work is already done, but what's not been done well is the marketing and branding in such a way that more and more people can know about it. But to your question, it's in the works. I should say that.
Are you aware of the Victory Over Internet project that Taj Ahmad has started on an international scale?
Only briefly, and Taj and I have been discussing a few other things, but I don't know in detail that particular situation.
Well, I don't know the details either, but there's different projects like this floating around, but it doesn't seem to be a lot of coordination amongst them. And
okay,
one of the other messages we're recently hearing is we have to start at the grassroots level. We have to contact, like we're in the media, Peggy and I are in the media field, so we're encouraged to start with local media and then build up from there.
Right.
So, yeah,
Well, I agree with that. And to Koichi and Damien's point, they've talked about this, that because I've been talking to them about different music projects in our churches. And in our Elizabeth, New Jersey church, we have a youth choir we've developed now. They're called the Peace Starts With Me Youth Choir. Mm-hmm. But it started locally. Pastor E.J. Rapada asked me to come back in November, twice a week or twice a month, to develop this youth choir. And we have a nice little choir now. And the plan is to start getting out into the community with the choirs at maybe senior citizens' homes or veterans' homes or whatever, but to use the choir as a way to open doors for us. But I think, to your point, locally is more manageable, right, at this point. And each location can do what they can do to get it going. And then if there needs to be some like overarching kind of what we call the federal government organizing this, that will come. But it's going to have to start individual or locally, because we have people and money in those in the regions right now that can maybe get different projects going. So there's work to be done, and messaging is very important, and to really use the internet to promote our ideas, and also to how should I say, have a way to counter the negative attacks, right? And that's very important also.
Yeah. Well, the message seems to be that America is stepping up front and center again.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Very important.
I know Robert Kittle has been giving some really good content centered on the importance of the family. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just hoping that, all these pieces can, start working together in a beautiful symphony to create, all
the pieces of the puzzle will come together in due season. Yes.
And we just had these wonderful Parents' Day events around the country. Out in California, they had a great event. In Clifton, New Jersey, really well-attended event. So the message is getting out there, and the family, the issue of family and parents. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
It'll
there's
come together. Thank you.
There's definitely something brewing here. To your point.
Okay.
So hold on to that thought and that prayer, Hans. Hold on
Yes.
to it. It
Thank
shall
you,
come to
Madeline.
pass.
Good to see you.
God is moving.
Come and visit us in Philadelphia sometime.
Well, I'm going to be in Delaware in September, so
Oh.
that might be my opportunity to peruse the perimeter at that particular
All right.
time.
Be good
But
to
I'll
see
be
you
in
again.
touch.